Hey everybody, welcome back to Wild Horizons. My name is Barrett, and in today's video, we are going to be teaching you how to cultivate mealworms. Hey everybody, well, I appreciate you tuning back into this one. Again, my name is Barrett. Welcome back to my channel. But in today's video, we are going to go over how to create and farm some mealworms. So, kind of like a little infinite glitch on how to create endless amount of mealworms.
Huh. Interesting.
We find ourselves, prior to us actually doing this ourselves, we found ourselves at the store every single week getting tons of mealworms. I'm talking hundreds, if not close to thousands of mealworms. We have a lot of animals that eat them. So it's super important to save money, especially in this hobby. It's not very expensive to create what we're about to create, and it's definitely worth your time. So make sure you watch through to the end. Again, if you're new, make sure you drop a like down below. Consider subscribing. It definitely helps out the channel. But let's go ahead and get into why you're gonna be doing this, and then what the different stages of life are for mealworms. Before we get into any supplies and anything else, let's actually go into mealworms and what they are and what their life cycle looks like, because that's super important for what we're going to do in today's video. So let's go ahead and get into that. Alright, so let's talk about life cycle of mealworms. I'm actually going to drop up a little picture here to show you the life cycle itself, but let's talk about it. So most places and everywhere you're going to buy mealworms from is actually going to have the worm form of the worm itself. They're not going to have the beetle, they're not going to have the pupa, they're not going to have anything else but the mealworms themselves, so these guys. But it's super important to know how long it's going to take for you to be able to actually start using your mealworm colony that you're going to create, and it really depends on how many of them you have and how many you put in to start. We started off with a couple thousand, and obviously it's grown since then. We've started some reproduction, and some of the beetles we have started reproducing. We've only had it now for a couple months, and it does take a few months for it to actually fully start colonizing and reproducing like you need it to. So in the meantime, even after you set this up, you're still gonna have to get some mealworms, depending on how many animals you have, either every week, every other week, or maybe even daily. I'm not too sure what you have or how many animals you have that you're trying to feed, but you will need to continue to get your supply from your pet store or online, wherever you get them from. But the first stage of life for these guys is the worm itself. So these little worms, again, they're really small when they're brand spanking new. What you're going to be buying from the store is going to be mostly full-size mealworms. So they're already going to be pretty big, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in first. What they do next is they go to a pupa. So it's like a little squishy, little whitish thing. It looks really weird. I don't love handling them. Kylie does love handling them. I'm not a huge fan. She's shaking her head. She doesn't love handling them either, I guess. She likes it a lot more than I do, right? So from the pupa stage, then they turn into a beetle. Now, they're not going to be sexually mature yet, so you're going to have different colorations of beetles. Some will be like a really white color, and then they go to kind of like a brownish color, and the sexually mature ones, which are the ones that are going to be reproducing, will be black. So I'll show little pictures here now, or little video clips of what each of them look like. But you can't initially start breeding them unless they're black. And it does take a little bit of time for that to happen. So don't be too scared that yours is a different color than black, because it's not going to be at first. But let's go ahead and get into what supplies. I can't talk today.
Today, Junior?
Let's get into what supplies you'll need to go ahead and create this three-tiered system. First things first is some oats. So you can get this pretty much anywhere. Any grocery store, anywhere has it. You can get it on Amazon. I'll put a link down below for Amazon in the description if you want to get some oats. But this is really the main thing you'll need for them to actually go and create a base or a substrate for the mealworms and the beetles and everything else to be in. So just some normal oats. Alright, next up is some wire gauging or screen mesh. So you can use like window mesh, screen mesh. I'll leave what actually gauge of like wire mesh this is up on the screen. We got this at Home Depot. So you can get this pretty much in your local hardware store. I'll also have a link down in the description on Amazon to show you what type of screening this is, because this is what we use and it works well. Let's get into what else you'll need. You're gonna need some egg crates, or you can use like some like paper towel holders and cut them up. We use egg crates. It does really well. They go up and crawl up in here. So you can get this stuff. Again, link for all of these supplies will be in my description if you want to pick them up. Link is in the description. Alright, some other items you're going to need is some super glue. So this is obviously going to be used for this mesh to go and set on one of these container bottoms or drawers. So you'll definitely need some super glue. At least supply-wise, either some scissors or a little knife, which I couldn't open all the way, or a little knife, whichever you have. And last but not least is a food source. We like to use carrots because they don't go bad, they don't mold very often, and they're not super humid. So you got to be careful with the oats that we have. Again, if you're not changing that out or you're using different kinds of fruits or veggies that have a lot more liquid to them, you will obviously get mold a lot quicker. But just normal carrots, just normal ones you get at the grocery store. I won't have a link for these in the description, but just the edible kind. Alright, and last but not least is the actual container itself. This is the one that we use, that we have all of our mealworms, beetles, and pupa in right now. So I'm not going to break it down and pull the drawers out for you right this second, but you need a container. Really a 3-tiered container. I'll leave a link down in my description on Amazon where you can get this, but you can pick this up at any little craft store as well. Alright, so now that we've gotten all that done, we have gotten all of our supplies, we need to start making some modifications to the little 3-tier bin system that we got. First things first, we're going to take the top drawer out because we're going to need to do some modifications to it. The first modification we're going to do is we're going to take some scissors, or I even did a little Sharpie and actually marked out my edge and my perimeter where I wanted to cut the base of mine out. But pretty much we want to almost do the entire base of that bottom lid or top lid and actually take that whole bottom out. So it's completely see-through. You can put your hand right through the drawer. It's not even a drawer anymore. If you put something in it, stuff will just fall through. But what we're going to do next, after you have that cut out and done, make sure you sand down the edges. I like to do that. You don't have to do that. That's just something I did. But I sanded off my edges just so it was clean. It wasn't super sharp, so for whatever reason the mealworms didn't cut themselves on it. I don't know why I'm really worried about that, but I'm a little anal when it comes to that kind of stuff, so I did it anyways. I took some sandpaper and I got those edges pretty good. The other thing next that we're going to do is take some of that wire mesh, lay it on top, cut it out to fit over that edge, right? We want to make sure it covers the entire thing so that no mealworms can actually get through that wire mesh. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, the top one is for the beetles, right? Well, yes, the beetles are going to reproduce. The black ones, once they're sexually mature, they're going to create new mealworms, new eggs, and those eggs or mealworms are going to then fall through that wire mesh. So to secure that wire mesh down, we are going to get some super glue and secure it down tightly, let it cure for, I did it overnight, and it was good to go the next morning. Alright, the next thing you're going to want to do is take your oats and pour them into each drawer, and then after you've done that, then you can get some carrots like I use, put a couple into the mealworm drawer itself, and then dump your mealworms into that middle drawer to have them start turning into pupa and then into beetles, and then finally back into mealworms. So make sure you give that some time as well, because it's going to take it. It's probably going to take you a good couple weeks, if not a couple months, for you to even start seeing any progress from them turning to the pupa and the pupa into the beetles. The other thing I wanted to point out is the temperature level in your house. That's super important where you keep this, because they do need a higher, I would say, temperature basis for them to reproduce often. So if you have them in a cooler house, let's say where it's like 70 degrees all the time, or even in the high 60s, it's going to take longer for these guys to reproduce. For them to reproduce well and fast, they need to be in the mid to upper 70s. I would say even like 80 degrees to 85 degrees is really ideal for these guys. They reproduce quick, they reproduce at a faster rate, the hotter it is. I really wouldn't go over 85 degrees. If you have an area that's 85 degrees or hotter, good on you, I guess. I don't know many people that do. Even my reptile room stays in the mid 70s, maybe hitting 80, 79 every now and then, but for the most part, it's in like the mid to lower 70s, and these guys do well. We get a good reproduction rate of our mealworms. They actually sit on our countertop where it's a little bit hotter than it is just in our open reptile room. But that's where we have our guys. They do really well. But let's go ahead and get into what else you'll need, because you need to get yourself some mealworms. So what I did is I went to our local store that we usually get mealworms from, and I picked up a couple thousand. We actually did 2,000 to start, so we have a lot of animals. And I wanted to be able to reproduce these guys a lot. So we got ourselves 2,000. You may need to do less, you may need to do more. I have like 50 animals that I feed mealworms to, so I needed to do quite a bit. I'm assuming you probably don't have as many as I do, so you might need to do a little bit less. I'd say 500 to 1,000 is a pretty good starting point. And once you get to a certain consistency, these guys are gonna reproduce a lot. You'd be super surprised how quick you get mealworms. So the first thing we wanna do after everything is done is go ahead and get these guys into the middle drawer, dump them in there, and let them start doing their thing. All right, and once you guys have let your mealworms sit for a while, you are then gonna start seeing a lot of the pupa start to come up. So you'll actually see these guys, and you need to make sure you're monitoring this, otherwise they can cannibalize each other. So it's good to get the larva or the pupa out of the mealworm enclosure or mealworm drawer and get them into the bottom drawer, which is the pupa or pupil drawer itself. So these are where they're gonna mature into getting into beetles. So it's super important that you separate these guys as you see them start to do their morph and their transition into becoming a beetle eventually. Again, same thing with the pupa, is once they are a beetle, you want to get the beetles into the top drawer, because again, the beetles will then eat the pupa. So you need to make sure you keep them separate. Again, it's okay if it sits overnight. I haven't really had too much issues with cannibalization. I really haven't had it at all. We keep a lot of lettuce and a lot of carrots inside of these drawers. That way they have plenty of food and they don't have to eat each other. But it's super important that you do separate them because they can eat each other. All right, so now that you've had your mealworms sitting in your drawer for a while, they've started to reproduce, everything's been going great, you have infinite mealworms. Congratulations, you followed the video and you did awesome. So make sure you let these sit for a long time. Continue to get your mealworms from your local store until you start seeing those little tiny little mealworms start reproducing, start growing into a good population for you to then start taking from them. Because the last thing you want to do is start taking from the mealworms themselves and they not have enough for them to continue to reproduce, become the pupa and into the beetles. You don't want to ruin that cycle. So if you got 1,000 of them, stick with 1,000. Don't start taking some from and feeding it to your animals, because then it's just going to create a mess and you won't know what you're dealing with, and it may take longer for you to actually create a new colony of mealworms. So make sure you comment below if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. This is what works well for us. We've seen tons of videos on YouTube of different people that use different things like little tubs and other stuff. I find that just to be really difficult to do. Just letting stuff sit, it doesn't go well. You get mold issues, you have other kind of issues that you have to deal with. This is, in my opinion, the most maintenance-free solution that's out there, and you get the most return on mealworms that I've found personally. Again, if you have any questions, comment down below. Make sure you stay subscribed if you're not already new to the channel. Drop a like down below and subscribe. It definitely helps out. But let's roll this outro. Alright everybody, well I appreciate you sticking through this one. Again, I know I just said it, but if you're new, drop a like down below. Consider subscribing. It definitely helps out the channel. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, make sure you drop them in the comments below. I'll try and read every single one of them and respond to you. Again, I appreciate you sticking through this one. We upload every Tuesday and every Friday, so make sure you stay tuned until the next. But we'll see you in the next time. Peace out.